And joining me now is Republican Congressman Michael Burgess of Texas. Congressman, you were one of the people that worked on the AHCA in the House, and I remember Rand Paul came over from the Senate and sort of made fun of you guys with a copier because you wouldn't let him see the bill. He was sort of poking fun at the secrecy of the House process. Shouldn't you be over in the Senate with a copier now, since you aren't allowed to see this piece of legislation?
Well, look, can I just say a couple of things? First off, it's good to be on with you again. It's been a little while since we've had a chance to converse on things. You know, the other thing I do need to say, it's a week after the terrible shooting at the baseball practice. I don't know if Steve Scalise watches your show or not, but I do know that his condition was upgraded to fair today, and we miss you, Steve. And if you're watching, speedy recovery, and we'll see you back here in the halls of Congress. No, look, we all say things from time to time. I don't know that that was particularly helpful on the part of the senator before when the House was working on their bill. I would not expect it would be helpful for me to behave in the same way, so I'm probably not going to do that.
Well, but there's been a lot made about process throughout, and I want to get to substance, but and I note here that sort of situational hypocrisy is an occupational hazard of the line of work you've chosen. Sure. But yeah. I do want to play you some of your complaints.
I used to be a student of medical irony a long time ago, and I've sort of branched out into legislative irony. So I have the full gamut.
I want to play you some of your comments on the Obamacare process, and this was in 2010, so this is a year into that process as it was nearing
that was right too, by the way.
Take a listen.
The White House has no interest in being transparent in this process because they have so much to hide about this bill. We probably have a day or two to look at the shell bill, a day or two to look at the phantom bill, and virtually no time to see what's in the real reconciliation bill. My committee, the Committee on Energy and Commerce, was completely bypassed in this process. No respect for the oldest standing committee in the United States House of Representatives. Very difficult to pass something this large that affects this many people without at least some input from both sides. That's never been done before, to my knowledge, in this country, and that's what we're trying to do tonight.
Now, that was after a year, and there had been committee hearings, there had been amendments. You were objecting specifically to the way that reconciliation process came together at the end.
Well, it wasn't the reconciliation process. It was the way the Senate-passed bill had come back over to the House, where we literally could have no input, because if anything changed, as you recall, if anything changes, then it has to go back to the Senate, but they lost a Senate seat along the way, and
but everyone knew,
said he couldn't do anything else with it.
And everyone knew what that Senate bill was, though, right? We had seen the text. Right now, as you and I are speaking, Yes.
Can I correct you in that people do know? I mean, we've had a reconciliation bill in the process for over 2 years' time. Everyone knows what the moving parts are.
No,
now,
we don't. But Congressman, respectfully, we do not. I do not have in front of me. I do not have legislative language, and there are lobbyists on Capitol Hill right now who do.
Well, we read the bill in the Energy and Commerce Committee. If you were watching our
I'm talking about the Senate. I'm talking about a Senate legislation that will be voted on in a week.
What you heard from your previous guest is that it likely will track close to what the House passed bill, because honestly, Chris, the moving parts are pretty well defined by the reconciliation process.
Right.
Do I wish we had 60 votes and we could do something in the Senate like they did? Of course I do. They ended with reconciliation. We will be beginning with reconciliation. I do want to stress, this is the beginning of this process, not the end. So we know what the moving parts are, something with taxes, something with mandates, something with Medicaid expansion. All of those are going to be parts, I suspect, of the Senate bill when it's released tomorrow.
Here's my question to you. I want to sort of put aside the exchanges, right? So there's problems in the exchanges. Those are very clear. There's problems with premiums. There's problems with insurers dropping out. Those are facts on the ground in many places, and you have been critical of that, and a lot of people across the ideological spectrum. Let's take that out of the equation for a second. The two big parts of the two big parts. Well, you can't though. You can though for this reason, right? Which is that when you to get back to your point about the budgetary implications here, there's two big moving parts, right? There's the tax cuts that are going to happen for the wealthiest households. If you make $1 million, you're going to see about a $50,000 tax cut. That's about $600 billion, and then there's $800 billion in Medicaid cuts. When people look at that,
we keep doing this.
Why is that
justified? It is not
justified?
a cut in Medicaid.
There is a reduction in the growth of Medicaid, but it is still going to grow faster than the population of the United States. I mean, we're actually implementing a policy that Bill Clinton wanted in 1997. You're going back to Paul Ryan's college days. This was Bill Clinton's plan in 1997. He said, give states the ability to put a cap on federal spending and don't make them come crawling to the federal government to get permission. That was the per capita cap that Bill Clinton proposed. The New York Times extolled the virtues of the Clinton plan in 1997.
Congressman, I didn't extol it, and either way, whoever extolled it in 1997, the point is that the money's got to come from somewhere. If you're saying it's not a cut, there's $800 billion that would be in Medicaid that is going to come out. That is a budgetary necessity. Otherwise, the thing doesn't pass reconciliation muster. So you can call it whatever you want, but there's going to be $800 billion less going into people's health care through the program than there would be if you didn't pass the bill.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of President Obama said the single greatest threat to our security was our debt. And honestly, Chris, you know this, there is something that is going to happen on spending control, deficit control. That is part of the discussion that's going to be going on over the next several months.
But if that's the case, then why $600 billion in tax cuts?
This is a common sense approach to the vast increase in the expenditures of Medicaid. Is going to go from $550 billion a year to $1 trillion a year in less than 10 years' time. But the country is not growing that fast.
But Congressman, if that's true, and let's just say, arguendo, conceding that, okay, that you're concerned about the deficit and you want to rein in spending, then why are there $600 billion in tax cuts for people making lots of money, including millionaires and billionaires who are going to see things like $50,000 a year added to their salary?
Yeah, well, here's the other part of the equation. The growth of the economy of the United States over the last 7 years has been 1 to 1.5%. Maybe some years a little over that, but not much. That's the other thing that has to change. Okay. You do have to have growth of the economy of this country,
and
or we're stuck in, we're mired in this stagnation, and we'll never see the light of day.
All right. I always appreciate you coming on. Let's keep doing this, Congressman.